Hello, dog lovers, and welcome to this week's episode of Dear Dog Fanatic. I'm your host, Kay. I'm a dog mom of 3 and owner of the Canine Detective, a virtual dog training company. This week's Reddit stories are from the r/DogAdvice subreddit, and we just have a good mixed bag, a variety pack, if you will, today. So grab some snacks, get cozy, and down the Reddit rabbit hole we go. Now, before we get into the stories today, for those who are watching on YouTube, I just wanted to shout out my shirt, or my hoodie rather. Coffee and dogs are 2 key parts of my personality. And my mom got this for me 2 Christmases ago now, I think. She always jokes that I'm the easiest of her kids to buy for because anything with a dog on it, she just grabs for me. And I thought that this was a nice little outfit, fit moment for this video. So the first story today is entitled, "My Boyfriend Hates My Dog. Is My Dog That Bad?" And we shall see. I don't know without more context. I think it's a bit of a red flag. It's a red flag about hating a kiddo as well. Hate is a very strong word, but so I'm thinking it's likely hyperbolic and more so a dislike. Let's see why. Immediately, I'm thinking this is probably a compatibility issue, but let's read on. So OP says, "I have a problem. My life has been really great since I moved in with my boyfriend. My depression got better and I was really happy with life for a while. I moved in 3 months ago. We're together for like a year. And in brackets, we have, he desperately wanted me to move in so early. I was unsure." Okay, so the couple has been together for a year and they moved in together 3 months ago at the boyfriend's insistence. "But now my boyfriend doesn't like my dog and I don't know how to deal with it. I gave up everything to move here and I don't want to go back, but I also don't want to give up my dog. I mean, I kind of understand. If you've never had a dog before and don't know what life with a dog is like, and then suddenly there is one, it probably feels overwhelming. Now he's really upset because the cats knocked something off his desk and my dog chewed up what he 3D printed for D&D, not even something with much work or not even painted or whatever." Okay, don't love the dismissal. I'm a D&D nerd myself, and actually, like, friends of mine, their partner has a 3D printer, which they really, really like. It's not great when our dogs chew other people's things, so I don't want to minimize that. I'm also curious, like, is this your cat? Or is it the boyfriend's cat? Because I almost wonder if there's a little, like, cat person versus dog person roommate situation thing going on. And then obviously these two are a couple. They're in a relationship on top of it. But I'm just wondering what the general dynamics are. Continuing with the story. "He already told me when I left something on my desk that the cats knocked it over and it got completely ruined, that it was my fault. I accepted it because, yeah, it was my fault. But he, in quotes, can't deal with that filthy mutt anymore." So I'm thinking the cats are probably the boyfriend's cats. "And my dog has a pillow she likes to cuddle and nibble on. It gives her comfort." It's nooking. My Frenchie does that too, especially with his like plushie toys. So he will normally go get a plushie toy and then have it in his mouth as he's dozing off napping. And the little like nibbles they do on those objects, it's called nooking, Nooking. So yeah, talking about this doggy pillow, it gives the pup comfort. The boyfriend got upset because he stepped on the pillow and it was wet with her saliva. This is what I'm saying though, of everyone is entitled to their preference. I do feel like the people who are very staunchly anti-doggos, anti-kiddos, anti-insert demographic with differences here, a lot of it comes down to inconvenience. It comes down to people not wanting to be inconvenienced by things that they don't think are important or things that they find to be unacceptable or not ideal. So is it fun stepping in a saliva covered pillow? No, but it's also like not the end of the world in my opinion. He also got upset that my dog, out of curiosity, went to his cat who was on his lap and the cat scratched his nose because she got scared. Okay, I think both the cat is female and the dog is female in this situation. I'm just following the pronouns. I'm getting a little bit confused. But I think OP is saying that OP's dog went to go check out the cat who was on the boyfriend's lap, and then the cat got scared of the dog, so the cat scratched the boyfriend's nose. In quotations, all that alone today, it's too much, I can't do this anymore. He's also mad that my dog peed in his flat after I moved. She's a really scared dog and has anxiety quickly. It probably happened because we moved. And she peed in his flat because she had a UTI not long ago. In quotations, she peed twice in my flat in 3 months. That's outrageous. I think that says something about me where I'm like, oh, twice in 3 months is not that bad. I mean, obviously, the ideal would be 0. But she had a UTI and anxiety and moved. So that's like a lot of, it's not, she hasn't even reached a steady state, you know? This is like saying like, oh, I just got put on anxiety meds and I had to move and I had a bladder infection, you know? For humans, for example, like your nervous system is not going to be the same. Like obviously it's not great. I could see how that would be inconvenient for you guys both, but outrageous I feel like is a strong stance. And he's mad that she suddenly can't keep herself clean anymore on her period. Normally she keeps herself clean. I'm confused myself on why she's like that now, but she would be sterilized soon anyways. Yeah, heats, normally you just put on, normally the people's attitude is not to let their dogs free bleed. I'm not sure where the OP is writing in from. Of course, I come from the Canadian perspective, and I think most of us around here put like basically doggy diapers on dogs when they are having their heat, so that way blood doesn't end up on the furniture and on various things. OP continues that they don't know what to do and that the boyfriend promised them at the beginning, I'll never make you choose between Coco and me. I'm assuming Coco's the pup. But now it's basically like this. I moved over 400 kilometers to be with him. I gave up my whole life and I have nothing left. I don't want to have to give up my dog too. This is me being nosy. So quick Google is telling me it takes approximate 5 hours to drive 400 kilometers at an average speed of 80 kilometers per hour. I just like to check because a lot of times in internet stories, not all of them, but a fair few are American based, so they'll use miles. We use kilometers in Canada as well. And moving to Europe, specifically Ireland soon, it's always really funny speaking to people here versus there around like how far is a far way, because we just have different definitions of historical time, as in like how long ago was a long time, and we have different definitions of like how far is it reasonable to drive an hour, is that horrendously far? It depends. So about 5 hours. So definitely not a commutable amount, but also it depends on the infrastructure for where they're living. That could be really far from their loved ones in the city or town that they moved from. But this all comes down to the fact that, you know, OP moved over 400 miles to be with their boyfriend. They gave up their whole life and they have nothing left. I don't want to have to give up my dog too, which is very reasonable. I won't even talk about stuff his cats do that annoys me because it's not relevant. I won't even talk about stuff his cats do that just annoys me because it's not relevant, but there is stuff. But apparently it's not bad because the cats are smaller, and if they do something, it's not to the extent of a dog. I was so hopeful because my dog gets along with the cats very well now. I'm scared and worried. My dog saved my life more than once and got me through toxic and abusive relationships. I really don't want to let her go after all this. TLDR is I moved 400 kilometers to my boyfriend. I'm dependent on him now because I don't have anything. My boyfriend doesn't like my dog because she does dog stuff. What the heck do I do now? Now we're going to take a look at the top comment that has a few different awards on it. Providing this is true and not rage bait or AI, and in any case, it might help someone else, and they have a list of things. You have presented a number of red flags. Number 1, begging you to move in 400 kilometers from where you lived and presumably have a lot of contacts and support systems. Did he love bomb you as well? For those unfamiliar with love bombing, it is a practice where someone showers their partner with a ton of affection at the beginning of a relationship. And it's normally a red flag that this person has abusive tendencies, or did he love bomb you as well? Number 2, blaming you for incidents. I get the impression that there may be more. Number 3, you have a history of being in abusive relationships. Your dog is responding to stress. Your stress, and I suspect, the stress of being berated and treated disrespectfully by your boyfriend. Wrap yourself in protective armor. Tuck every extra dollar, pound, euro somewhere safe. Ask friends and family for financial, physical, and psychological support. Leave him as soon as you can and move to somewhere where you have a feeling of safety. Then find a therapist and stay single for at least a year of therapy while you work on you. We only get your side of things. What you have said tells me that you need to work on you before stepping into another relationship. It sounds like you are in a relationship that does not make you happy. Find out how to be happy on your own first. As RuPaul says, if you can't love yourself, how in the hell are you going to love somebody else? Words to live. Another top comment we have here is, your boyfriend is already breaking his promise to you that he would never make you choose between him and the dog. You should choose the dog and make arrangements to move. If you give up the dog, you will regret it and you will resent the boyfriend for making you do it. The relationship is already over. Please don't give up your dog. And someone responds to that comment saying, 100%. As soon as OP gives up their dog, they will regret it. Being mean to pets is a huge red flag to me. And they continue saying, really tough situation because OP says they have no means to move, but if it were me, I'd figure something out. Yeah, and this is the hard part. I actually am involved in an organization and project coming up to help folks in transition home situation with their dogs. And I'm really passionate about this. It's really important that people understand that a lot of people do stay in abusive relationships for longer than they should, longer than they realize it's time to get out because they don't want to leave their dog behind. Not quite the situation here. In this situation, it's more you stay with somebody who is toxic and give up your dog. I don't think anyone is ever really happy with ultimatums. And it kind of makes you stop and think, like, oh, if you have to give an ultimatum, should you be in this relationship? And someone responds to that comment saying, seriously, no grace for the dog who also had to move cross country and is integrating into a new home with cats and a new person around all the time. And calling it a filthy mutt just tells me he doesn't like dogs, TBH. And that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that you're a bad person if you don't like dogs, but then you probably just shouldn't be in a relationship with a dog person, right? This and the 3 months of living together told me everything. They always show their true colors after 3 months. Whether it's dating, knowing each other, moving in together, the 3-month rule always applies. Yeah, and a lot of awards and upvotes. I'm going to read another one of the top ones saying, P, your boyfriend wanting you to move in early and at a great distance is worrisome. That plus the dog hate. He's controlling and trying to isolate you from your emotional support system. I hope I'm wrong, but you need to familiarize yourself with abuse tactics, specifically narcissistic abuse patterns. This seems like love bombing followed by devaluation. Please create a safe exit plan for you and your animals. Have copies of your important documents and cash on hand in a safe place. Know where to go locally if he escalates. If he chokes you or hurts any animal, even accidentally, you need to leave immediately. Please trust your gut, OP. Better to have a plan you never need than get caught alone in a place you don't know with him threatening Coco, OP's dog. Trust me, you're right to ask and be wary. Just reading through the comments, everyone being very supportive towards OP, warning OP that this is signs of a toxic or abusive relationship, encouraging OP to keep their pup. And I'm just going to read this comment because I was looking for comments to see, like, sometimes we have people who love dogs so much that they're blind to faults, and there are some people who dislike dogs so much that they think that they're always at fault. So I'm always interested when I come to these comments here on Reddit. But this commenter says, If he cared about her and the dog was actually misbehaving, he tried to train out any difficult behavior. As soon as my husband met my dog, it was his dog too. They are inseparable now, and although my husband doesn't have as much experience with training as I do, he will get on board with anything we're working on. He takes him out, takes him for walks, plays with and feeds him while I'm at work. My dog is his baby too. As far as my dog is concerned, we were a pack the moment my husband and I moved in together. My boyfriend before my husband was around when my dog was a puppy, and he'd say things like, "Your dog," and never put in any effort to bond with him, and it broke my heart. My dog tried to love him, but they never bonded like my dog and my husband. That was one of the final nails in the coffin for that relationship. Anyone who can dismiss or devalue such a close bond as a person and their dog isn't a well-adjusted human as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, and like I said, you don't need to like dogs, but then I just wouldn't encourage you to be with somebody who has such an important relationship with their dog. This is the PSA. If you don't like dogs, you will not be happy being in a relationship with a dog lover. It's just a fundamental incompatibility, and that's okay. We need to normalize, hey, you shouldn't date somebody if they want kids and you don't. You should not date a dog lover if you also don't love dogs, and that's okay. But yeah, most of these are just more and the same, so we are going to move on to the next story. So this next story is titled "Bitten by New Rescue Dog After She Took Food Off the Table." Okay, this will be an interesting one. Hi there. We were doing a trial adoption with a rescue dog from the Humane Society and officially adopted her on Saturday because things were going well. As of today, she's been with us for 2 weeks. They think she is an Australian Shepherd mix. I have 3 kids, ages almost 3, 6, and 9. Everything was going well. We actually taught her to sit and lie down in just a week, which was incredible. Aussie Shepherd mix, herding breed, very, very smart dogs, quite trainable, but very important to take things slow when transitioning a rescue dog into a new home, and especially so a new home with small kids. I'm very curious, and I think that it was so smart of OP to do a trial adoption. That's what I always recommend. A lot of rescues will offer you foster to adopt options or trial adoptions. Basically, being a try before you buy, see if you're compatible. And if you're going to go down the rescue dog route, I would highly recommend trying this just to see how you and the dog relate, interact with one another, whether or not you're actually compatible before fully committing. I just think that's a smart way to go about it when you have the opportunity to do so. Back to the story. Everything was going pretty well. Back to the story. The only thing she has done thus far, until the past 2 days, was jump on people excitedly by the door and get a little nippy during play, still gentle. But we thought this was because of excitement, and when people first came in the door, or when we woke up in the morning, or when she was getting super excited during play with a ball or tug of war situation. She has been a lot better even during this time about jumping on my husband and I, because we would just turn and ignore her until she got down and then give lots of attention when she was down. Yeah. Makes sense. On Saturday, when we went to fully adopt her, they gave her an updated vaccine and she tried to bite them. So they ended up having to take her back to the vet tech and muzzle her. Okay. I wonder, updated vaccine? We'll see. And the rescue dog has been with them for 2 weeks. So there is a theory in adoption in the rescue world of 333, of like 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months to decompress, for rescue dog to get accustomed to their new home, to see what their true personality is, things like this. So 2 weeks is better than no weeks in terms of gathering information, but it still doesn't give you the full picture. I'm very curious how old the dog is, because it's talking about an updated vaccine. So I'm imagining this isn't a puppy vaccine. I'm assuming this is maybe their like annual vaccines that they need to get. They tried to bite the vet tech when they went to administer the vaccination, and then ended up having to take her into the back and muzzle her. Okay, I don't think this is not in itself, I think, inherently a red flag. A lot of dogs do need to be trained to being handled. Not all dogs like getting poked with vaccines or being groomed, things like that. Different dogs have different tolerance levels for it. There's a lot you can do with training to desensitize them to it. There's also something to be said for whether or not they're in pain, if they're in existing pain, and then you try and stab them with a needle. Essentially, it makes sense for them to have such a reaction. But also, muzzle dogs are not bad dogs. There's nothing wrong with muzzle training your dog to keep everyone safe and secure while at a vet visit. So that to me is not inherently a bad thing. So it sounds like the rescue told OP that the dog almost broke skin and told OP to tell the vet for their safety that she doesn't like vaccines and that she would bite. They also told me to touch her face and ears frequently for short periods to get her used to that. Okay, and this is one of those situations where it sounds like rescue being well-meaning, but either did not explain the concept of cooperative care and desensitization to OP well, or did so in such a way where OP is confused, because what they're trying to suggest there is get your dog used to being handled, but just randomly sticking your hand in your dog's face and touching them in their face sometimes is not going to solve a dog that's already dislikes being handled, and that doesn't solve the vaccines of it all. It's a step in the right direction, but I wish if they were going to give this advice that either they would have referred out to a trainer or given OP like a pamphlet or a resource of some sort about desensitization and cooperative care and handling. And it's not at all uncommon for dogs to not like it. Talk to your groomers, talk to your vets. It is more unusual for dogs to be chill with it than they are nervous. Doesn't mean that all dogs will necessarily bite or need to be muzzled for such things, but many dogs do not like it unless their humans take the time to help them be neutral to it. So, continuing with the story, up until that day, we had been petting her. She had no issues with people petting her face or touching her ears. Yeah, so this is what I'm saying. So they also didn't notice a problem with touching the dog around their face either. So does it immediately translate to the vaccinations? The first 2 days we had her, she did kind of nip back when we would clip the harness on, but she quickly figured out that means a walk, so she stopped doing that and is now completely calm when we put the harness on. Yeah, it just sounds like this is a dog that you need to introduce new things to her slowly, particularly when it comes to handling. Probably some more desensitization needs to happen with respect to equipment and her being okay with being touched in various places. And I also hope that it sounds like the rescue's doing the vaccinations rather than a vet. I hope that they will take this dog to a vet if they haven't already, just to rule out any potential medical issues, because it could be that the dog is in pain. We'll frequently see an uptick in nipping behavior or dog bites that are primarily pain related. They're feeling in pain, they're feeling vulnerable, and so therefore they are more likely to try to defend themselves or as a knee-jerk reaction because of being handled and then that sparking pain somewhere in their body. We continue. After the shelter and vaccine experience, she was more stressed the past couple of days and more jumpy, not calmed down as easily, a lot more nippy with people. Yesterday, she jumped on my toddler, getting in his face and nipped at him. So I said no pretty loud, and she turned and started barking at me. That has not happened before at this point. I'm now keeping her on a leash when he's running around, and she's staying calm when on the leash, and I'm hoping she'll get used to it. We are, of course, having him not run by the dog, since that seems to be triggering the herding nipping. Yeah, this is also, some of these are very breed-like tendencies. An Australian Shepherd is a herding dog. They are more nippy than other breeds. I totally understand why this would be a concern for the OP, and it's one of the reasons why it's helpful to train your dog before bringing home your kiddo, or if you're introducing a new dog into an existing situation with a kiddo, you got to kiddo train your dog. And so that is a lot of, desensitizing them, to getting them used to being calm and collected when kids are running around and screaming and doing kid things. And that is also a process. Today I was having lunch and walked into the kitchen for a minute to grab water. And when I came back, she had grabbed food off my plate and was eating it. I reached for it and she immediately bit me on the hand and drew blood. No warning whatsoever. Now I realize I should never have reached for it, but there hasn't been any indication so far that she would do something like that. as she hasn't acted that way with her own food. After reading a bit, I realized this would be a high-value food situation, so more desirable than her normal food, and I shouldn't have tried to take it. So resource guarding with respect to food, and OP has already touched on the fact that, human food in general is more tasty to both dogs and humans than dog food often is. So she might not feel that her dog food is worth guarding, but evidently the human food is. Also, just in general, even with my own dogs, and I can do it, if something's like already in their mouth, unless it's harmful for them, I'm not going to shove my hand in their mouth. And I don't think that Opie did that, but it seems that the dog had already grabbed food from the plate and was already eating it. The food was already in the dog's mouth. So if I were OP, as they have already acknowledged, I just wouldn't have gone to grab for it. The motion of the hand coming towards the dog's face likely also did not help with the feeling of defensiveness and resource guarding in that situation. OP continues, my question, do you think this is something we can work on quickly enough? Quickly enough, what is the definition? That would be my first question. The nipping, resource guarding, for it to be safe. My question is, do you think this is something we can work on quickly enough? The nipping, resource guarding, for it to be safe, or am I putting my kids in a lot of danger? With the dog that has now actually bitten me, she's been super sweet and cuddly otherwise. It's clearly really smart with how quickly she's learned some things, and I realize this is still so new. I guess I'm trying to figure out what to expect and if this could get a lot better, or will it just get worse / more dangerous. I will be completely candid in that definitely it doesn't mean the situation can't work. But with kids that young, Australian Shepherd or a lot of like herding dogs in general would not have been my first choice for the potentially dog savvy, would not have been my first choice for potentially undog savvy individuals. Doesn't mean that it can't work, because I can already hear the comments of someone saying like, well, I had a healer growing up and that was just the best dog ever. Totally fair. It totally can work. It just wouldn't be my first choice if you want a dog that doesn't have some of these behavioral challenges, doesn't have the breed-specific tendency of like herding and nipping. I just would have made a different suggestion for this family. But let's see what the users say, But let's see what the Redditors had to say. First comment here, sounds like probably not a great fit for the young age of your kids, especially the 3-year-old. Yeah, that was what I was thinking as well. She does sound nippy in general and has an issue with food resource guarding, and a home with older kids, teens, or no kids, she will probably do fine. And yeah, this is why I was saying, like, I don't think that these behaviors are egregious. And in fact, I think that is very normal for a rescue dog, especially one that is still decompressing. Not to say that all rescue dogs behave like this, but these aren't uncommon behaviors. A lot of folks who come to work with me with rescue dogs, some of them have a combination of such behaviors, right? And I agree, it does not mean that this won't be a great dog for someone out there, even a family. But I just think that it sounds like the parents, OP, aren't super dog savvy. The kids aren't super dog savvy. And this is a doggo that is going to be like a high energy breed, has some nipping, has shown some resource guarding. And this is why we do the trial adoptions. This is why we do the foster to adopt, is to see, hey, is this going to be a good fit or not? And the answer, I think, in this situation, unfortunately, is no. Doesn't mean that she won't be a good fit for future owners, though. Someone responds, time to think with your head and not your heart. It's only been 2 weeks since she's already bitten you, and what sounds like a few near misses, including nipping at the 2-year-old. You have young children. They'll have friends over. Managing this long term is going to be exhausting. Yeah, exactly. I think it's super important to realize what your capacity is before getting a dog. And it just sounds like this is a very busy family. I don't know yet, because we don't have any details about it, about whether or not they would be a good fit for a dog in general, and not that I have it is going to be a lot of work if OP does decide to keep this dog. This might be a case where maybe we need to wait a few years before bringing a dog home. Maybe we need to be looking at some different kinds of dogs, some different breeds. Maybe we're looking at more of a I wouldn't even say a senior dog because with the young children and dogs is a very delicate balance. It requires a lot of management. It requires a lot of training. And irrespective of whether or not this pupper is a good fit for them, I just think that no matter this pupper or another pupper, it is just going to be a lot of work having having young kids and a new dog. OP says, "Thank you for saying it in this way. I'm really struggling because I'd like to think we could do it because she seems like a great dog in so many ways, and I'm really sorry and sad that this happened. My 9-year-old is going to be really upset because he adores her, but I also don't want anyone to get hurt, and it's been really stressful the past couple of days with my toddler and the dog whenever they're around each other. It's hard to tell whether they'd get used to each other and settle down or if it would escalate." Someone responds to that saying, "It will take exactly one mistake from your toddler for the dog to bite it, and it will be the second your back is turned. An adult can shrug off a bite that draws blood. An adult can also push the dog away. Your toddler will be in the hospital. Google animal bites on toddlers if you really want a depressing reality check." I love my rescue dog. She is wonderful with me and my wife, but that took 3 months. Yeah, 3 rule. After a week with my family staying with us, we took her muzzle off around day 3 as she seemed to be behaving. I turned around for 20 seconds and she bit my mother-in-law hard enough to break skin. That's all it takes. If there was a child staying with us, she would never have her muzzle off unless she was locked in a room with me or if I had her by the collar. And this, I feel like, is a very helpful addition by somebody who has a rescue dog, loves a rescue dog, but knows what it takes when there's a rescue dog that has these kinds of behaviors or has these kinds of tendencies. Training can definitely improve the situation, especially at the beginning. It's a lot of work in management, and it is a safety issue when young children are involved. Yeah, I just think a lot of dogs should not be in homes with young children. There are some dogs that are great at it, but I just don't believe that a dog and a young child should ever be unsupervised. I think that they should always be supervised. I think that the dog should always be under control by the adults in that situation. The adults should be teaching the child to be dog safe. There's a lot that goes into that. And it just sounds like, especially this dog in this situation, this is not a good fit. Someone responds to the original post saying, "It's hard to say because you've also only had this dog for 2 weeks, and it can take a few months for the dog to truly settle in. During this decompression period, the dog usually has pretty high stress levels and may behave differently than they normally would. Plus, you have a high drive herding mix." Yeah. Nature and nurture, guys. Breed is not the end all be all, but it is important and cannot be ignored. This is not to say you can't successfully train the dog out of nipping and resource guarding, but it will take a lot of consistent effort, time, and firm boundary setting. And having young kids around will make that more difficult because there's very little room for error. Exactly. If you're committed to keeping this dog, I'd consult a trainer who can meet the dog, understand your lifestyle, and give you a better idea of what to do. If not, you may want to consider rehoming. That was excellently put. Someone else echoes, "If there were not young children in the house, I would say you could work on it." Yeah, and that's my thought. These are very manageable things that you could work on for an adult-only home. Having such young kids immediately makes this a not good situation. As others have said, it's just not a good fit for your home, and there's no shame in returning her to the shelter for the well-being of your children. And it's for the dog's well-being as well, because when people see things like this, see situations like this, they think, oh, that dog's a bad dog or that dog's being naughty. What this means is this dog is stressed. This dog is stressed or scared or uncomfortable or in pain in these various situations when bites happen, when nipping and children and different things like this is going on. So think about it from this way. If it assuages OP's guilt or anyone else going through a similar situation, you're not just doing this for the kids, you're also returning the dog to the shelter for the dog's sake, right? Because if it is unsafe for your kids in this situation, it's also unsafe or not a good fit for the dog either. Yep. Others kind of echoing that point. So we'll move on to the next one. Why does my dog, who loved me and my partner right away, hate everyone else? And I appreciate that they paid the dog tax. It's like a little brown. It's definitely a mix, but brown and kind of fluffy, small dog, and it's like cuddling a little like lambkin. Story goes, we got our pup a little over a month ago. When we brought her home from the shelter, She didn't really take any time to warm up to us. She loved us right away and has been so easy. She lets us groom her, play with her paws, and brush her teeth. She is obsessed with cuddles and very demanding about it. Good on leash and generally quiet. But she is scared of everyone else and doesn't want to warm up to anyone, even after being around them for hours. She will bite if they don't respect her boundaries, but she isn't aggressive, just scared. Okay, and I love that it seems like they have some knowledge of dog body language or at least enough contextual clues to know that it's not their dog being aggressive, but she's just scared. And the comment about boundaries, especially since this is a small dog, is making me think a lot of people will just, oh, hi, with like small dogs in their face. You're so cute. It's that they're tall, right? So it's more like someone standing up over you and going like this. For those just listening to this, I'm like wiggling my fingers in front of the camera. Being obnoxious, like how little dogs experience your giant palm coming towards their face. So the only reason I bring this up is because the boundaries comment makes me think of this. OP continues, I just want to understand her better. I don't need her to love everyone. I will tell people to leave her alone. I just want her to be her happiest self. It would be nice if she likes at least one other person so we could go on vacation alone eventually. But if we have to bring her, then it is what it is. As for her breed, if it gives more context, she is 41% Chihuahua, 17% Pit Bull, 17% Rat Terrier, 8% Pekingese, 6% Poodle, and the rest is Super Mutt. And someone responds to that in threads saying, every Chi I've known picked one, maybe two people to love and told the other 8 billion people that they see them in hell. It's a good gig if you can manage to be the one, though. Opie responds to that saying, we do feel very extra special to be loved by her, haha. Someone says, I don't have a Chi, but my dog is also very selective in her affection, so I know exactly how you feel. Having a dog that loves only you is silly, but an effective ego boost. Someone is responding to OP's original post saying they need a lot of exercise and socialization from being a puppy and it needs to be consistent. I think maybe they might be alluding to, and I don't know, I don't think we know some of the breed mix, but we don't know how old this dog is, only that it is a rescue pup and that she was brought home about a little over a month ago. But very true that if puppies miss out on certain experiences during the critical socialization period, that will often manifest in being a bit more reactive, anxious towards foreign people, dogs, objects, etc. Not helpful to discussion, but it made me laugh. Someone says, they found their people and they don't need any more, thanks. But why is that so relatable, though? Someone else responds to the post saying, sounds like my dog. Honestly, some dogs are just predisposed to being anxious. I did a lot of work with mine, and now he can be around people. He won't let them pet him, but he's fine with them being around the house with us. It will just take some time with training and some work. Thankfully, my dog is very food motivated, so giving guests snack to give him upon entering has been helpful. Yeah, and I think that is good advice. It's like, sometimes dogs are, it's like humans. Some are more social than others. The key bit is making it so that there's not a bite risk with having guests coming over and the guests respecting your dog's boundaries, but your dog doesn't also need to love everyone to be a good dog. I have 3 dogs myself. My parents have 2 dogs, and they're like the easiest points of reference for me to pull from. 2 of my dogs you could probably kidnap quite easily. This is not me encouraging you to do so, but if you saw me on the street and came to say hi to Kronk and Lilo and took their leash and started walking away, they might go with you. Well, they might turn back and look. Point being, though, if you could put them in your backpack or something, take them somewhere, and they would be quite happy. This was proven by my Frenchie at 3 months old, leaving us at the lake to go sit on another couple's towel and sunbathe. I checked, and they're like, no, the puppy's so cute, they can stay. To give you an idea, my other girl, Velma, definition of a Velcro dog, always wants to be where I am, and she's fine with people coming over. She's even fine with people she doesn't really know petting her, but she doesn't love it. She's uncomfortable. You can see this out in public. So I don't let strangers, in general, I don't let strangers interact with my dogs, Velma in particular. Or if we have friends coming over that she doesn't know super well, a lot of times I'll just direct my other 2 little extroverts towards those people, and then Velma will just come hang out with me. Doesn't mean that she'll bite, doesn't mean that she wouldn't tolerate someone petting her. She just would be uncomfortable. Kind of like when you're a kid and that aunt's like, come give me a hug, and you hug them, but you don't like love it. That's just more her personality. And it sounds like maybe that's this little Chi Mix's personality. Who knows? Another commenter responds to OP's post saying, sometimes dogs bond strongly with the first people they meet and then become a bit wary of others. It can just take some time and positive experiences with new people. Letting visitors ignore the dog at first and offering treats usually helps them warm up. And OP responds to that comment saying that's exactly what they've been doing. And I think that that is a great one to end on. Some people are just giving different tips around socializing and what have you. Some are advocating for some methods that I do not agree with, but we're not going to get into the weeds of it. I think that OP is, from what we've been told here, it sounds like OP is approaching things in all the right ways. It's only month 1, and I think that things will improve over time so long as they continue to protect their dog's space, help continue with socialization. Yeah, I think that they're on a good track. Next story is 1 year ago, I adopted my eyeless dog, and it was the best decision I ever made. Ask me anything. And there's a little picture of this rescue goodest boy. He, like they say, has no eyeballs, but otherwise looks like how some of these rescue mixes tend to look. He has like the little floppy ears. He's very cute. This is Jack, a 2-year-old mix that's the love of my life. I was apprehensive about adopting a special needs, this is in quotation marks, dog at first, so I thought I would see if anyone had questions because he was and is 100% worth it. And so someone basically thanks OP for taking on this beautiful boy and asks, were you a dog owner previously? What was the hardest thing to adapt to? OP says, I grew up with a lot of dogs, all rescues, but never a special needs one, and my family was never really into training them. We did tons of research ahead of time, and he just fit our size, temperament, and space living needs, so we took a leap of faith. Yes. Thank you, OP. You're never going to see this, but thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Someone who took the time to figure out the size, the temperament, living space needs, compatibility, lifestyle, this, and no regrets. This is what is going to help you have the most amount of success with a potential future dog is compatibility. So important. OP continues saying, the hardest thing has probably been keeping a consistent schedule. At first, we had to teach him that 3 a.m. was not walkie time, but sleeping time. Very fair. Well, I guess too, I mean, maybe there's some difference in smells. Maybe someone can chime in, but I guess like if you have no eyeballs, sorry, I was just thinking, it's not like the doggo could even make out like shapes or lights or things like that, like legit no eyeballs. So every time is just nighttime for doggo. So yeah, interesting. But that's why I picked this story, because I'm like, I'm sure there's just implications because I have not yet had the experience, the privilege of helping someone train their eyeless doggo. And so I was professionally quite curious about what the differences were. But apparently it only took about a week to teach him about what the timing was, and he caught on. We keep the same exact schedule every day, which means I have to get up early on weekends to maintain it. I think also that's just dog ownership. Sometimes it depends on the dog, but yeah. But it's worth it. If we're off schedule or he knows you're in the house and can't find you easily, he does cry a bit. He's a bit lover boy. He's just a big lover boy who wants to be with you all of the time. Someone else says, I have a question. How stressful was it initially trying to figure out how on top of him you needed to be to keep him safe? And when did all that fall into place? I think essentially asking, like, is there, because the doggo can't see, was there additional things? Like, did the doggo need extra monitoring? Things like that. OP says, the first week had me questioning my decision. He cried so much after his foster dropped him off, and I was terrified to scare him by touching him too much or make loud sounds. I think 2 days in, I had to talk myself into a shower because I was worried I'd change my smell and confuse him. He also had a hard time telling night from day, but we started giving him a spoon of yogurt as a trigger for bedtime. I love that. Classical conditioning, using these cues. This is awesome. Yeah, because I guess too, like if you can't tell the difference between night and day, You're just going after routines and patterns. So yogurt as trigger for nighttime is so smart. And you can do that with other things, doesn't need to be yogurt. But yeah, I was prepared to put scented things by the stairs and his bowls and the front door and everything. 24 hours in, he already knew where his bowls were, where his bed was, and to this day has not had a single accident inside. My goodness, smart doggo. From the get-go, we made a rule of no Jackie in the kitchen, as it's pretty small between the oven and the dishwasher, and he'd likely be running into us a lot. Plus, didn't want him to nab any food from the floor that might be dangerous for him. He's totally respected this and learned so fast where the floor changes texture is the boundary. We say 2 paws in is okay. They have that part in brackets. He's the smartest boy I've ever owned and super eager to learn, so I don't really worry too much except when we travel with him. I love that. Someone else asked, did you find he's able to pick up on verbal commands well? Yeah. And that's another interesting thing, getting into the weeds a little bit with respect to dog training, is you can do verbal commands, you can do hand signals, depends on what kind of cue it is. But obviously, if the doggo cannot see, you're completely reliant on the verbal commands, similar to for the deaf doggos, that all has to be signed or hand signals, right? So OP responds, he is fantastic at verbal commands. We started with a clicker, but now just use different words, pats, taps, and mouth clicks. We want to incorporate touch commands in preparation for old age and potentially hearing loss way down the road. That's smart too. And for those who don't know, touch commands are as they sound. It would be touching the dog in various ways, different parts of the body, and using that as cues, as signals, instead of telling the dog to sit, for instance, or you doing, a hand signal to indicate this. And I love that OP is already thinking ahead to old age and in hearing loss. Yeah, because when the doggo cannot see and the hearing ain't so good, you need some other way to tell him what's going on. And someone responds to that comment saying, yes, please get touch training involved ASAP. Start today. Also, be extremely vigilant about ear infections. Many dogs lose their hearing due to even just the minor ear infections that go under the radar for many dog parents for a while. You are awesome, and I bet he lets you know. And I'm going to do this as a bit of a PSA. Someone asks, do you know why he had his eyes removed? Was it glaucoma? Opie says there's a naturally occurring fungus called blastomycosis that lives in the soil/water in southern USA. Some dogs get infected, some don't. The best theory the vets have is that because he was heartworm positive, also very common for rescues in coming from certain parts of the states. My healer mix, who came from Texas, also had heartworm. His immune system couldn't fight off the exposure. All it takes is some sniffing around to contract it, and this blastomycosis can go into joint, skin, lung, brain, or eyes. The choice was to remove the main source of infection, his eyes, and save his life, or watch him succumb to the spreading of the disease. They did try to save his vision, but it was already gone by the time he had his surgery. Someone asks, is his smell so good that he's basically like a normal dog but can't see? He says his sniffer is dynamite, and we call his ears his eyeballs. We definitely use a lot of scent enrichment toys/games. He somehow maps out places after 1 or 2 bumps to know when to avoid an obstacle. I love that. And someone else here with a blind doggo pipes in saying that having a blind dog is such a wild experience. My little guy started to develop juvenile cataracts around 3 months and has been 90% blind since about 6 months old. One of my biggest challenges has been playtime, since he is very nervous to bump into things and obviously can't really fetch. What types of games or toys work best for your little guy? My answer so far has been to take him to a big open field or beach and let him run zoomies out in the open. And so OP responds to that saying, playtime has been a slow but steady learning curve for us. We went through lots of toys before we found what he likes. We love Playology brand because they have scent technology in them that releases the more he chews on it, and soft/floppy toys so we can brush over his back to tease him during short-range playtime. It's been a year, and he only recently took up interest in a ball. He likes to bury himself in a blanket on the ground. We do lots of scent games, snuffle mats, and puzzles, and definitely open, safe places. He does love going to those. I love that. Someone asks, how did you train him to learn the layout of your home, and how do you avoid him hitting obstacles on walks? Bless you. You seem like a wonderful person for giving Jack a loving home. OP responds to that comment saying, we let him explore on his own. Took a few laps around with his leash on. We focused on training a lot of direction words, straight, right, left, Up, in brackets, up a step, and step, down a step. Careful or watch out. Now that it's been a year, he trusts us to warn him of anything big, and he spends a lot of time with his nose down at the ground, sniffing and using his whiskers for guidance. I love that. And on that positive note is where we're going to end our episode for the day. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Give your dog some scritches for me, and I will see you in the next one. Bye now.